Good afternoon, everyone. We currently have over 35 institutions, including St. Louis Community College, Lawson State Community College, Qatar University, the University of New Hampshire, and many others dialed in today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Allow me to welcome S.K. Calkins, Vice President of Customer Success at Quick Launch.
Thank you, Sam. With the current factors impacting each of us personally and professionally, we appreciate the time you have taken to join us today. To ensure business continuity, now more than ever, we must have a reliable and secure work-from-home experience for our constituents. Faculty, staff, and students need easy, fast, and reliable access in order to be productive and secure at home, just as they would be on campus. Alan Saylor, Chief Technology Officer at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, will be presenting on solutions that ABAC has in place to ensure business continuity for their constituents. Welcome, Alan.
Okay, appreciate that. Just to kind of give you a little bit about my background and kind of what I do. I am for Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. My current role is Chief Technology Officer, but prior to being Chief Technology Officer, I was Director of Application Services, and prior to that, I was Enterprise Developer. I've also been with the college for about 6 years, going on my 7th, but prior to that, I taught computer information systems at a local technical college, and I currently am teaching for several other colleges online. And so from when it comes to an education environment, I'm pretty well kind of been in it most of my career. I've done some enterprise work as well, some side businesses. So I do have a master's degree in information technology, internet security, and a bachelor's in information technology, educational technology. Next slide, please. Like I said, I do work for Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, and we are a public college located in South Georgia, Tifton, Georgia. We're part of the University System of Georgia, and we offer bachelor's and associate's degrees. We also, kind of just to give you a little about our environment and kind of see how it matches up with your environment, I kind of wanted to go over a few of the applications that we are running and that our people access through our single sign-on or proxy portals. And so we have our Elution banner, which is our ISS, which is our SIS, sorry, our student information system. And then for all of our financials and our HR data and stuff like that, payroll, we run PeopleSoft Financials. For our LMS, our learning management system, we are running Brightspace by D2L. We call it Georgia View. And then for our email, we are in Office 365 shop. We are completely hosted, no 365, so we don't have an exchange on campus at all, so we're 100% hosted. And then we also have what we call Blackboard Transact for our payroll system. We have e-accounts for students to be able to add money to their student cards. We use TouchNet for our students to be able to make payment for tuitions. And then we have roughly in the neighborhood, we have about 80 different applications that our students can access and get to and use, and our employees. I mean, so students can't get to all of them, but a good many of them they can. Next slide, please.
Throughout the presentation today, we will be conducting several polls and ask each of you to respond with your current business continuity plan process. Our first poll is to understand where each of you currently stand with regard to work from home. We will pause briefly to give everyone time to respond. Okay, looks like most of you, yep, okay. The results from the work from home poll indicate roughly 70% have closed for an extended period of time with essential personnel working from home. Thank you. Alan, may I ask how ABAC has managed work from home for the last week or so?
Yes, we were on spring break last week. So our students were already scheduled to be out last week. This week we extended spring break, but we brought back our faculty and staff um, just to come back, pick up material or information they needed. And we will be converting all of our courses to online classes, and the students will start back activities starting next week. And so this has kind of been one of those, what can we do? How can we do it? How's everybody going to get to all their applications, get everything? And, you know, for us, we've actually been pretty much, you know, well blessed because we are a cloud first institution. So we look at anything from a standpoint of cloud and moving everything to cloud. So when we look at how much we have on prem, it's very minimum of what we have on prem. And so with the help of Quick Launch and the SSO, it has allowed us just tell people, go, you know, go, we call it the My ABAC portal.
Okay.
We call it, we've named it that. And so we just says, go there to access your applications and get to your resources.
Ah, I see.
And so that has helped us greatly.
I see. Coming from Community College of Philadelphia, I know I have most of the resources on campus. We're a very much on-prem institution, and we too extended the spring break and used the time for essential personnel to work from home, and are starting completely online for all of our in-person classes as of Monday. Next slide.
Yep. All right, so I kind of wanted to go over a few things with you and, you know, kind of get to why we decided on, you know, what solution we were looking for, what challenges that we had, and, you know, not really talk a whole bunch about, you know, now and, you know, what's going on now, even though, you know, it's a very relevant topic for us, but kind of focus on now and the future for you, and kind of, you know, what challenges we had when we were looking at a solution for, you know, identity management and stuff like that, and trying to come up with stuff. So a little bit about our history is we were a centrify / adaptive shop. So we did have an SSO, and this was last summer. We had an SSO in place that we had been running for about, you know, 4 years, but we were having some issues, you know, not with the SSO provider, but with our environment kind of type deal, because we're also a banner shop, and several of our products have to be what's called CAS, so it has to be casified. And so we was running an SSO provider, and we was running a CAS server, which was hosted and managed by another company. And so we were paying for the SSO, we were paying for the CAS, and then our University System of Georgia said, you'll need to put multi-factor on a lot of our applications. And so we're like, okay, so we started looking into multi-factor and MFA, and so we're like, okay, how are we going to put this, you know, put all this together? And so then we found out that we're using Ethos Identity Service, and so we were going to have to go out and purchase software as the MFA for the multi-factor. And so we were going to end up with 3 companies is what we're going to end up with. One to handle SSO for SAML, CAS, and then one to be our multi-factor provider. And to us, we were looking at it and we were racking up to over 100 grand. And to us, we were like, okay, they got to be a better solution. They got to be something out there that can provide all this. And we wanted to find someone that could provide not only that, but several other things for us. Because, you know, as time goes, as people are, you know, changing jobs or switching, and businesses are reducing workforce some, especially in the tech environment, you know, or more stuff is coming in that's technology based, and your staff is having to support it, your people are getting thinner. So we wanted something that we could get in quickly. We could get in by our due date, but we wanted something that we had a service that would help support us and that would not take a bunch of heavy lifting by my staff, and that could help reduce the load on them. And so we kind of started looking for a solution that could do provisioning for us, that we could be in compliance as far as security goes, and had great security, and we was able to see that data and reporting information. So that was one of the challenges with everything that we're looking at. We wanted it all to be in one solution. Next slide, please. So that's kind of where we kind of came through and we started identifying some of our other challenges. Okay, so we have multiple credentials. I mean, we have people that have, you know, credentials for this environment and credentials for this environment. So our solution, our single sign-on solution, also needs to be able to handle that, because they need to be able to handle different access lists, or we need to be able to convert those applications to using SAML or using CAS. And so that was another one. One of our challenges, the password reset. We wanted that feature put in because we had students contacting and faculty and staff contacting help desk to get password reset. Well, we didn't run an after hour shop. I mean, you know, so we were open from 8 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3 on Fridays. And, you know, so somebody would have to wait. We said, well, you know, we don't really want to do that. We want them to be able to reset their password. When we was looking at the number of tickets we had for password reset, I mean, majority of our help desk, that's what they were spending their time doing, is resetting passwords for students or faculty and staff even. And then, you know, we'd also come across a stage where, you know, a student would say, hey, I can't get in, this, that, the other, and they had never changed their password. They were still using their default password that we initially sent them. Even though we told them to set it back, you know, to change it, they were still using their default password. And so that was kind of giving us some fear from the security side. And then we had our scripts that was running that we've kind of developed in order to create the AD accounts. And, you know, over time, those scripts, and as things change, you have to reprogram all those scripts. Now, like I said earlier, I was an enterprise developer. So when it comes down to the back end, I kind of understand a bunch of that. Yes, I'm the chief technology officer now, but I still get my hands with, I still do a lot of programming, I still do a lot of coding. And so when we was on the search for a solution provider or something, there was a lot of stuff that I knew from having my background in programming that I wanted to find from a solution provider, and I wanted that provider to be able to explain to me what they could do. And so that was kind of one of the other things that we were looking at when we kind of started looking out for a provider. Next slide, please. And so that's whenever, you know, after we searched through several providers and we demoed we did several proofs of concepts, we came across Quick Launch. And we were like, okay, let's talk to them. Let's see what they got going on. Let's find out what they have. And so as we started doing our research on them and kind of talking to them, just from the people that we talked to and the developers that they put on the calls with us, they were able to explain a lot of stuff to us, which made us really feel comfortable. Also, they didn't always take the, I mean, you know, business approach. I mean, they are an education first kind of company. I mean, they work with enterprises and stuff like that too, but you know, they understand education, and that was something that we were also looking for, was a company that understood education, from not only understanding our workflow but understanding our budgets, because our budgets are a little bit different when you're looking at also needing to support, you know, 4,000 students. And then, you know, you got students that are inactive and active students. So your student population can grow to about 10,000 quickly. And so having them to be able to understand that and know that, that was something great. And so we decided on the Quick Launch, their application library was huge. So that was basically the application that they've already built. So as we was looking through that and looking at it, we're like, okay, then they've already done Banner, they've already done TouchNet, they've already done, you know, D2L, they've already completed our Transact. I mean, they already had several of these that they've already done for other schools or other companies, which made us feel real good. Now, they didn't have all of ours, but the good thing is, when we asked about the additional ones, they were like, no problem, we can get that done. And as a programmer, I did have a little bit of hesitation, but they proved themselves. They really did. Next slide, please. They proved themselves, and they showed what all they could do for us. And as we started going down this journey with them and started looking at everything and started a proof of concept, other stuff came up. We wanted to make sure that all of our SSOs and all of our applications were using one username and password. But nowadays everybody also wants the built-in apps, and they want everything on their phone. And then we use SharePoint as our and we use Microsoft Teams, and so that is our internal company. We call it Inside ABAC is what we call it, and so that's our internal portal or our intranet. And so we wanted to make sure all that can kind of integrate and work together. At the same time, you have administrators, you have staff that aren't, and if you know anything about education and kind of how stuff like that flows, you can have an employee that's working in financial aid one day, and then the next week they're working over in student accounts because they took a job, they just switched places in the college. And you wanted to be able to set up these role-based, and that was one of the things that we were looking for from a security standpoint. Whenever someone switches roles or someone changes or shifts, we can immediately switch apps that they have access to based on their roles. And so that's been a benefit for us, because otherwise we were having to go in there and say, okay, well, we got to remove this, add this. And so those are kind of some of the things that we really were looking for. And we are we're all about data. And so our president is a statistical genius kind of type deal. And so he's all about data and wants that data. And so reporting and analytics was a big thing to us, because not only does the report analytics help us from a standpoint of, kind of seeing what's in our environment, but it also helps us to know what applications are being used and what services are being used. And we could see that, as we started looking at some of the data and some of the applications, that we're paying a lot of money for this tutoring service, but no one's really accessing it. No one's accessed it in the last 3 months. I mean, no one's logged into it. And so we're paying, this big money to have no one access this. And so we was able to look at that data, and that helps us to be able to clear up some of that stuff. And so that was something during the proof of concept that we was really seeing, that we was really liking. And we're all about brand. I mean, we try to put our brand on everything that we do, because we are ABAC is what we call ourselves, ABAC. And so we wanted to have the brand and custom branding ability. And we didn't want it to look different than our website. I mean, we want someone that when they go to it, they're not questioning, because we teach everyone, if the site looks strange, don't go to it. Don't sign into it. Don't put your username and password into it, whatever you do. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to brand it and keep it branded the way we wanted, but we also wanted the ability to do it ourselves, where we could quickly change it if we needed to. If we saw a spam service that came in that kind of pretty much was able to emulate our brand or emulate our login page, we wanted to be able to have a quick turnaround on changing that. And so that was something else that we were looking for. And that's several of the things that Quick Launch was able to provide for us and deliver for us during the proof of concept, and even still now. And a lot of people's like, okay, well, the proof of concept, and I mean, we actually had during the proof of concept, we had a full-blown setup. I mean, they had us set up, and the amount of time to set it up was quick. As quick as my team could work with them, they were turning it around and giving it back to us. And so that was a great blessing on us. Next slide, please. And so during this time, we started looking at and say, okay, how else can we help our help desk? How can we help us to reduce the load? And so, we got looking at the password management solution, so the password reset and all that stuff. And so we said, let's get that implemented. Let's get that put into place. And they turned around really quick and was able to put that on for us. fact, they were like, okay, well, how do you want to do your password reset? Next slide, please. And we was like, okay, well, what's our options? What can we do? And they said, well, we got recover by email. We got these UB keys that y'all can use that people can access. They can do security questions. We can send either text messages to the phone. We can do app stuff. I mean, they started giving us all these options that they had the ability to do. And we're like, okay, well, that's great. But what are we going to do about, our admin accounts? Because we don't want, they said, well, that's not a problem. Based off the role, we can limit what options they have, or we can even add where instead of them doing one factor, we can make them do two factors. And I'm like, okay, well, that's wonderful. I'm like, well, we got a lot of users that are still using their default password. And they said, not a problem. We can expire all the passwords. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that right off the rip. They said, well, that's not a problem. We can do a notification, give them, however many days you want to give them, and then we can set up a thing that'll notify them 14 days in advance or however many days, and we'll keep reminding them to reset their password. We're like, excellent. Let's get that put into place. And for us, all that was wonderful. We was able to put our own policies in place as far as, because we require at least 11 characters, uppercase, lowercase, special character, and a number for the password. I mean, so and for our admins, we want the password to even be longer. And so that was some of the good stuff that we were able to put in place. And now it all came down to, okay, well, we got all these different environments. We got students, that have Stallion at abac.edu, and our faculty and staff, our employees are running abac.edu, and they said, that's not a problem. We can, you just give us however many Active Directories, LDAPs, whatever you got, we can link them all together, and you just tell us the order kind of to go in. And then we started thinking about, what about continuity? What if the campus goes down? And they said, that's still not a problem. They said, we can work on, y'all can work on getting a Active Directory up in Azure, and we can link to that, or you can put it at a different site and we can link to that one too, AWS. And so currently we are replicating our AD up to AWS, and we're going to be linking it. They can also, I know they are doing some beta stuff with Azure AD and linking directly to Azure AD. And so that's been a really blessing for us to be able to have all those options for the password reset, and to actually really reduce down my staff. And so now when we get an email in that says, hey, I can't log in, I don't remember what the password is, we have the help desk have a little, what we call quick text. They shoot it back to them in the email in a quick text, and we don't hear anything back from the students. They normally go through the password reset, and then once you show it to them one time, they don't come back and they don't ask you again. They know, just go out there, click the forgot password. We do still have a few, don't get me wrong, that we have to help out that may have not accepted their security questions or never logged in. But you're still going to have that no matter what you do. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% eliminate to someone calling for a password reset, but it has reduced us dramatically on that front, which has really helped us. Next slide.
Thank you, Alan. Our next slide today, we would like to ask the question, do you have a process in place if there is questionable activity on a user's login or account? I'll give you a few moments. Okay, well, overwhelmingly, the answer is no. Alan, do you rely on knowing there is a process in place to help questionable activity at ABAC?
Yes, my answer is not no. Actually, let's go on to the next slide, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So with us, we did have to worry about that. I mean, and as we looked at our O365 environment, we would see, that it looked like this student logged in Tifton, and the student logged in China. Oh, that's kind of weird. Then we had students that logged in, elsewhere and just all over the country. And don't get me wrong, we do have some international students, but we didn't have we don't have that many international students. And so we started seeing these things, and we started seeing some of the places, and we also understand that there is this VPN service that you can get now, um, that will hide your IP address and sling it all over the world, which it does what it does. And and so we was like, okay, well, maybe that's what the case was. And we're like, okay, well, how can we don't want to lock these people's accounts, but we also don't want to email them, because if we email them, then if the person is hacked their account, they'll get the email. And well, for our students, we don't have all their numbers, and so that was going to be an issue. We were like, okay, what can we do? And that's where adaptive authentication came into play when we were talking with Quick Launch about, how can we beef up our security? What can we do? And they were like, well, I mean, all we got to do is just put a rule in here. And I'm like, just a rule? I said, yeah, we just put a rule. We'll do it in tests. You check it for a couple of days. We can do the rule overnight. You check it for a couple of days. And if it's what you like, we'll move it to production and you'll be done. And we're like, oh, so I mean, just put this in place and that'll be that. And they're like, yeah, so we're like, okay, well, go for it. And so the next day they contact us and we had it in place.
Oh, goodness. We may be having a moment of, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that, everyone. We are having a few, okay, great, thank you.
Well, of course, technology is always going to get us. Technology is always going to get us. There's no doubt about it.
Best laid plans. Oh.
But yeah, I mean, especially with all of us working from home and not knowing how our internet is working too, so. But looking at the adaptive authentication solution that they had, we were like, okay, so what can we do? And they're like, well, we can put in the adaptive authentication, and it can be based off of, the same stuff that we base the password manager off of. We're like, okay, so you mean to tell me that we're not going to have to set up additional secret questions or additional cell phones or additional emails or any of that? And they said, no, it will go with the same technology that we use for password manager. And we're like, okay, that's great. So that allows us to be able to use our YubiKey, so we don't have to issue out anything additional to anybody. We can also do push notifications to kind of let them know that, there's questionable activity, or kind of let them authenticate in using their mobile device. And of course, now the mobile devices, you got to make sure that if you are pushing something to them, that they can use the face reader or they can use the fingerprint. So they were like, yep, not a problem. We can handle that. We're not just going to push a notification. They say yes, they can use their biometrics and all that stuff, or they can use an authenticator app, whether it's Google or whichever one. They can set it up, Quick Launch or Google. I'm like, great. And so that allowed us to be able to really take advantage of all those different services. And then we said, okay, so how are we going to set up a rule? And we're like, well, let's see here. If we questionable activity, what exactly is that? And so we started saying, well, let's see, we want to, on this group of people, we want the questionable activity to be, just kind of a range. If they sign in Tifton and then an hour later they sign in China, that's impossible. They can't get to China. So let's throw up let's make a multi-factor. Let's throw up another factor, make them use another factor to get in. And they're like, all right, that's not a problem. I said, but we really don't want to do that to people that's, on campus. So the people that are on campus, and we know that they're here on campus because we got a campus IP address, let's not do that to them. And they're like, okay, well, that's not a problem, because we don't want to disrupt employees and them working and all that stuff. They're like, okay, well, that won't be a problem. We cannot flag them using y'all. We can trim out the IP based on your IP range. I'm like, excellent. And so we was able to get all that set up. And like I said, the setup time was pretty much nothing. I mean, it was overnight. They had it set up. And then during the day, or we had to do testing, and there was some stuff that we had to tweak. But as we told them stuff that we wanted tweaking and stuff like that, they pretty much got it changed, got it switched up in less than a week. We had it in place with what we wanted, and we already tested, and we were comfortable with it, and it was moved over to production. And so that was one of the things that I kept seeing with Quick Launch as well, was just, as you wanted to add stuff, they had it, and they were like, not a problem, and it's not from a standpoint of, well, yeah, okay, let's plan this out. It'll be so the first week we'll do this, the next week we'll do this, third week we'll get to user testing, and then you're going to user test for 2 weeks, and then on the seventh week we'll move it to production. And so there was not long integrations. I mean, that was not there. For what we was doing. So we was able to put these adaptive authentication solutions in place and the password manager in place really quickly. And we sent out the notification to our students, our faculty and staff that you may see some changes. We just want to let you know. But the good thing is it was all branded with us and all branded as what we call My ABAC. And so that really allowed the end user to know what was going on. And, yes, we had a few people that would, hey, this is doing something strange. Is it supposed to be doing that? And we'll say, yes, we sent out an email, last Thursday and Friday and Monday. Did you read those? No. We're like, okay, well, let me explain to you what it is. And we'd explain it to them. So you're still going to, like I said, you're not going to not get calls on this, but it was really easy, and the users were able to accept it and was able to get it in quickly, which really helped us out a lot. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Alan. Our next poll: how are you currently provisioning your accounts from your SIS to Active Directory? We'll give you a few moments. Okay. Seems okay, great. The results of the poll show a few of you are using a FIM process, but the majority of you are using custom scripts, second to manual account creation. I'm sure, Alan, you have had similar situations where you've used each of these components. Would you like to highlight your experience?
Yes, so we were doing kind of a manual account creation a good long time ago, but then we went to custom scripts, and that's kind of, from a provisioning standpoint, that's great. I mean, if you got the programmer that can, but as people turn over and people leave, you bring in new people, and they may not understand the script that was written by someone else, and so change things. And of course, if we all know Microsoft, tomorrow they'll decide that, that they're not going to use that type of coding anymore. They're going to go to this type of coding, and every script you got is going to break. And so if you're not sticking with one of their products to do it and paying a fortune for Microsoft Identity Manager or FIM, then, for us, we didn't want to have to manage it and have someone sitting there to kind of manage that environment. And so we are a small shop. I have one developer, and then I do development. So when it comes to programming, there's two of us, and he's kind of new to it. So I've kind of worked a good bit with him on several things. He understands C and all that, but from an education standpoint and Banner and the tables and all that information, he doesn't know all that. And so we've worked really hard to kind of pull him up, and it's allowed us to be able to kind of have some of those custom scripts. But that's where we didn't want to have to keep maintaining them and keep them on a server, because we started getting into this more, especially with Microsoft Teams and being able to do these groups, and you got these students that are in this class. Well, now the instructor wants to be able to immediately have them all into a team site. And so that is kind of where we started looking at what can we do, how can Quick Launch help us. Next slide, please. And we kind of went to the, let's do some automated provisioning and getting them into these different applications or these different groups or these account creation things, where we're not having to do it ourselves. Because, as your student population grows and more people, especially now with everybody switching to online, just trying to create everything and put everybody in, Georgia View, which is D12 for us, and get everyone, in Zoom and, different products, to provisioning. How can we do all this? And so you start trying to figure out, what's the best solution, and the best solution ended up being, a solution that we don't have to pay any extra for that we had. And that's basically Quick Launch. Next slide, please. So with that, it allowed us to, we started looking at different sources that we could pull in, because not only do we want to do it with our students, which are all in Banner, but we want to do it for our employees. Well, our employees are sitting in PeopleSoft Financials. And so we got to get a little bit of data from PeopleSoft Financials. We got to get a little bit of data from Banner, and we got to make the employee, and got to put them in AD, and then we need to give them access to different applications. And so then we can start it, we started picking our connectors and where the information is going to pull from to start creating these accounts, because not all of the information in PeopleSoft matches up with what we call the friendly names for our departments and where people are located. So we want to be able to convert that over, and so we want it to be able to set up conversion tables or the information. And so they were able to really help us with that. And then, of course, don't get me wrong, you got some of these offset accounts that just needs to be kind of created or do certain things. And so we were able to kind of, work on that and kind of improve the efficiency there, and not have someone get an account over here in D12 when they're an employee and they never access that. They don't have no reason to be there. And so that really helps us there, all based off the role. And so, like I said, this all goes back to kind of that role-based access control, which is, baked into the system that allows you to be able to start changing this and switching people around. And if people do move, you don't have to, or if people leave, you can start shutting those things down. And so that's kind of where we really wanted to make sure that everything was working and all the workflows were going like they were going. And of course, for us, like I said before, it's, for us to be able to make sure everything's doing everything, we want to be able to see it. We want to be able to get reports. We want to be able to look at the analytics. We want to be able to know, because, you have some people that'll come into a role and the manager's like, well, they need access to this, 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 and this. And you're like, are you sure? I mean, are they going to do stuff in that? And so then it allowed us to start looking at our financial aid environment or our student accounts environment and say, okay, well, a cashier really is only accessing this. So they don't need access to these applications. And a financial aid counselor is not doing verification. So they don't need access to this. In our business office, well, here's your accounting team and here's your payroll team. They don't need that. So by doing that and looking at those analytics and looking at that workflow, we were able to start setting up we started off with a small role base, not a huge role base, really small one. And then, we start, and don't get me wrong, we're still developing roles now. We haven't had the service quite a year yet. But and the great thing is we can add these and improve on this as we go, along with, the help from Quick Launch, which has been a really good blessing for us. And so um, now the provisioning piece, now it does, I'm not going to lie, it does take some time for that, because if you don't understand all your rules, already have all your rules made up and kind of know where to access everything from, you'll have to work with the team to get all that set up. But that's the great thing about Quick Launch. I mean, with me being a programmer, I'm really picky about companies and asking them certain questions. I mean, what is your integration? Well, we integrate with everything. You're like, oh, you do? So how do you integrate? Well, it's a file. So I'm going to send you a file. You're going to do something with that file, and you're going to send me a file, and I'm going to do something with that file. Yeah, I'm like, well, I don't call that an integration. I call that file transfer. well, no, but it's integrated. I'm like, no, I don't call that integration. And so to integrate with this, they said, well, it's really simple. We'll connect to the database and we'll do this, and you'll give us access to these tables, and that'll give us be able to query it. And if you want us to write back, the email address into Banner, we can write back the student email address into Banner, and we'll need access to this table. I'm like, okay, they know what they're talking about. This is some people I want to. And so as we went through this and kind of went through this, they also brought, we've worked with this school, and this is kind of some of the stuff they do. We're like, yeah, that sounds great. Can let us do that too. And so that's a really great thing about them is, they work with several different companies and schools and different things too, and so they bring that knowledge with them. And yeah, they kind of really want to find out what you do, because they don't want to tell you what other places do. But when you ask, they're able to give that feedback to you, which is a great thing. And so as we work through it and able to start the whole provisioning process and looking at the provisioning piece from here or there, and kind of how we're going to do this, we're able to start pulling pieces, and we've even got some stuff now that we're going to start, doing some changes and start adding some more attributes into AD in order to make things easier to start provisioning for the different classes based off the CRNs. If the students is actually already signed up for classes, then they'll have so many credits, and so then we'll put this in an Active Directory, which will then put them in this group, and so that allowed us to be able to really nail down what we call our active employees or active students, or the ones that are enrolled, which then we don't have to manually start creating these O365 groups. I mean, because it's always, hey, is the employee, especially right now, the big thing is the employee, it's a staff group, is everyone in it? I mean, if I send an email to the staff group, is it going to get to everybody? Yes. Yep. Our service runs every single night. It checks against some AD. I mean, we can run it more frequently, but for us, we don't need it running more frequently. Uh, so, yep, that's not a problem. All right, good, because we got to get this email out to all employees. Like, not a problem. Or need to get this out to all students. Not a problem. Just, email it to that address, and we're hands off from an IT standpoint. So, I mean, it's been a blessing for us to be able to work with them and kind of implement all these processes. And like I said, it's kind of one of those things that you kind of start off with SSO, you kind of get it going, then you just add the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. And the way it works with them is, I mean, it's as fast as you can push them. I mean, most time I'm not even pushing them, they're pushing me, asking me, they're waiting on me. And I've been pretty much, completely the process. Me and my enterprise developer has been the two to kind of work through the whole entire process. So I've, understand what they've done and how they've done the environment, and they've worked with him on a lot of stuff. Like I said, he's new. He doesn't have a whole bunch of understanding from the education side, but they've worked really well with him and kind of said, okay, well, this is especially right now with what I'm dealing with a lot of other stuff, but when we need something changed, he reaches out, quick launch. The quick launch team says, not a problem. Well, this is what we need you to do. And so they kind of explain what they need, and they work with us. And they've been several things that we're like, okay, well, this is what we're looking at doing. We want to put MFA on our VPN service, which is using AnyConnect. Okay, not a problem. Y'all got some manual? You got some stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that's what we got. Okay, yep, we can do that. So we'll get you over here with this team, and this team will work with you and tell you what you need to do on your side, and we'll do this on our side. And then they kind of will email back and forth to work it out. And, in a matter of no time, it's done. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoyed working with them is, and I've worked with multiple, and I got, with us being a cloud-based and a managed services group, I mean, we look at it from a standpoint of, yes, we want to do IT, but we really want to be brokers. We want to broker the services, because when you look at our support staff, we have 5 sites, we have 4,000 students, We have, counting our part-time and our student workers, we have almost 1,000 workers is what we have. And so we got 5 tech support people, and that's our help desk people that answer the phones. That's the ones that do remote in, and that's one that services the sites, and that's all the computers. And we have over 1,500 computers that have to be serviced. We have a part-time network guy, a full-time network guy, and two server admins, a junior server admin and a senior server admin. And that's, that's our IT shop. That's what we have. And so you're not looking at but about 8 people there to service 5,000 individual and 5 sites, and our sites are all at least an hour and a half apart from one another.
Goodness.
But that's kind of us. And so, like I said, it's been a blessing to work with them. And I don't really, I have nothing negative to say. I'm kind of a guy. It's like when they ask me to do this, I have no problem doing it, but you need to understand I say it how it is. If anybody knows me, they know that I just kind of, I don't believe in, sugarcoating it any. I just deliver it how it needs to be delivered. And so that, like I said, it's been a really blessing. I'll let SK take it from here.
Thank you. And we appreciate your candor, Alan. Really, we do. Thank you. Thank you for sharing today how ABAC ensured business continuity for all of your campuses. I'd like to open up for questions, so feel free to start submitting your questions. During that time, I'll take a moment to highlight Quick Launch, and then we'll address questions. By choosing Quick Launch, you are choosing an award-winning identity integration platform as a service. As a company, we were intrigued at the landscape of information technology within higher ed. We could see that there was and still is a true need for institutions of higher ed to have state-of-the-art solutions that exceed industry standards, ensure business continuity, are streamlined, user-friendly, and very important, cost-effective. And we appreciate being able to support institutions of higher ed as Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. I'd like to move on to the questions now. Next slide. I have several questions. Let's see. What would you do differently in your business continuity planning as far as IT services if given the chance? Alan?
That's a good question. So over the last several years, we have put a ton of stuff in place. And our biggest fear has always been since everything routes back to AD, how can we make sure that AD stays up and functioning and is working? And so that's where we've explored here recently to put a copy of our AD in AWS and be able to link all of our stuff to it. And so that's always kind of been one of the biggest things as far as our business continuity, that we've always feared that if they can't reach our AD, then they can't authenticate. What are we going to do? And so that's been one of our biggest things, because all it takes is a little bit of construction on campus and somebody dig up a fiber line, and then you lose connection until you get that fiber line fixed. And so that's been one of our biggest fear, which we have put in place. If I could go back, I probably would go back and I kicked myself a good bit that, when I selected Centrify and some of the other solutions, I had looked at Quick Launch and I looked at their website. I didn't reach out or contact anybody, and I just, sales guy told me what I needed, and I'm like, all right, sounds good. Did a proof of concept, and it was great. But then I found all these little flaws that I needed a CAS server, I needed this, and so. But I was able to learn from that, and especially with multi-factor now, it allowed me to be able to I need to get that in place. And so business continuity, that's probably what I look at. And like I said, we're always making improvements.
Okay, thank you. Our next question: how do you integrate with the banner system?
Okay, so well, looking at as far as quick launch go with the banner system, they have a middleware server that we put on that's actually put on prem, and it talks back up to them. So it's a secure way to kind of talk back and forth to be able to transfer the data in order
Okay.
to be able to
And is
get the
that,
data in there.
okay, and is that banner to AD synchronization real time?
Well, the banner to AD synchronization, it kind of depends on what you set up. Um, as far as, you could set it up to be probably almost real time. I mean, you could set it to run if you want to about every 5, 10, 15 minutes. We got ours spread out a little bit more, just from a standpoint of we want to make sure that no one's in the system making changes when it runs. And so we kind of do ours overnight because we don't want to start trying to make an account and then someone say, "Oh, I mistyped that last name. Let me go in there and change it real quick."
Okay,
And so but it allows us, if someone does change it, it will fix itself. But so we don't run ours real time, and that was our decision.
I see. Okay, thank you. We have a similar question to the first one that I read. Lessons learned from the current crisis?
Lesson learned: be flexible.
Okay,
Be
right?
flexible, and definitely watch your analytics and stuff like that over there. I mean, like I said, we've pretty much been pretty good. We have not turned on multi-factor for all of our applications. That's also one good thing is you don't have to turn it on for everything. You can pick and choose what you want to turn it on for. So that's really been great for us because we don't want to hurt people, and you can also turn it off of certain things. And so that's kind of where we've been. So I mean, I kind of, as far as this, looking at our sign-on solution, everything, we're really in a good state that we really haven't had too much to worry about, or that we haven't been able to adapt and run with. So
Okay.
I don't really have many lesson learned from that side of the house as I do that. I wish I'd have bought laptops for all my faculty and staff and not desktops, but that
Right,
doesn't have anything to do with this.
right, right. Okay, thank you. And the last question, overall experience with Quick Launch as a vendor. I think you've highlighted on that. Would you like to close with a couple words, or are you good?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. My overall experience with them has been great. It has been. I've went to them. It's kind of one of those things that I really like a vendor that I can just talk to. And I tell every vendor up front, listen, I don't do this whole let's play a game here, and me say this, you say that, and us bounce back and forth. Let's just keep it real. I can tell you what I can do, you tell me what you can do, and let's do business. And it's been really great with them on that. I mean, I tell them this is what I need done. This is what I can afford. This is what I can do. Can you accomplish it? Yes or no?
Great.
And they come back and say yes. They don't kind of come back and say, well, let's see if we get, nope, this is what I can do. And so it's been a really good experience. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I have nothing negative to say. If I
Thank
did, I
you.
would.
Okay,
I'm that kind of guy.
right.
But
Thank
but
you.
yeah, so it's been really good.
Great. Thank you so much. It looks like we are out of questions. So I will close today by saying thank you, Alan, so very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you to all of the institutions that joined us today. Uh, we appreciate your time. Our goal today was to highlight the solutions ABAC used to ensure their business continuity plan works. Could I have the next slide? We will share the recording of the webinar with each of you and would welcome staying in touch and invite you to connect with us. Please feel free to schedule a one-on-one demo or a trial to discuss your current environment and how Quick Launch can help ensure your day-to-day processes are secure, reliable, as well as ensure your business continuity plan will work now and in the future. Thank you all very much.
And SK, if they email y'all and they want to ask questions from me, or they got some additional questions after this, I am open. They're more than welcome to send them my way as well,
Great.
or they can send them to y'all and y'all can forward them to me, and I'll be more than happy to reply and answer any questions that they may have.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll ensure that we put your email address on the webinar link that we're sending to everyone. Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.